what you like, but you're still on a roof. I'm not gonna change the system. They're not gonna change the system. We're not gonna change the system. Where did that leave you? Where did that leave me? Turn out that's a bunch of food. All those that should be lawful. Can't go on a breaking matter of just as it may get. For the swimming vigorous. Feel the summer beast up. Feel the sun with shoe right up. Leave no option now. Just what have they got? Fuck all now. What have they got? Swimming pools. Where do you get it? Follow the rules. System, system. Keep their fingers on the brakes. Stand and let us understand. For a better quarter to. Nah, 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 nah.
The whole philosophy of the open house, it was set up as a creative house, whatever that meant to people. So there's been films, books, music, everything written here or done, you know, painted here, or gardening. It didn't have to be the fine arts. It went into all sorts of things, you know. Some people make a great art of making a fine cup of tea, which is fantastic, you know, making bread. You know, it has the extension, logical extension, is really doing something with a heart. So that whole ethos has never changed really, and that's Crass wasn't any different, you know, and all the things that have happened since is not any different. The spirit's the same.
No, is the swift answer to that. There were three, unless there were more down the bottom there.
One of the greatest battles I've ever fought is just to remain in this place, you know, which is rightfully mine. You know, because commodity culture wanted it, because it's worth a lot of money. Doesn't matter whether it's sort of, you know, the burial ground and the creation ground of soul, you know, they want it. We effectively used an awful lot of the tactics and techniques that we'd developed with Crass on a much more sort of intimate level, you know, with the local village and the local townspeople, and we formed an action group which was made up of people from the right, left, centre and everywhere else, who all wanted in some way or other, for one reason or another, to try and preserve something of the sort of countryside that this whole area represents, and were willing to sort of spend time to do that. And we first of all beat off BT, who, you know, is a massive corporation, which was a huge success, and they wanted to turn this just into one huge sort of luxury housing estate for the wealthy, with sort of big hotels and golf courses and shit knows what else. We did buy it on borrowed money from friends, and we still owe half of what we bought the house for, which was 160,000, which is very, very cheap, of course, but and it was very, very cheap because we were in it. I mean, it's not worth an awful lot to people, and people knew they couldn't get us out because we'd already won that case in the courts. I mean, what I want to do, what I hope I'm able to do, is to finish paying off the house and then put it into trust, because that way, you know, maybe in 50 years, there'll still be people like us sitting around talking about nice things.
Buy now, let's go. Buy now, say hello. You can put school to the light. To enter Summer's paradise and champion dignity. A lovely colour consulting meets you watching churches tasting wine. Similar things that money can buy. Rush shit, plastic crap. My life might be worth more than that. Black nose can own jumping spray. I'm no faker, monotone. Lust on trouble, fresh race.
Oh, happy days! The sort of goal he scores so often for Chelsea.
Steve, did you hear that David Beckham was wearing a Crass t-shirt?
Yes, I did. Designed by Jean-Paul Gaultier. At that time I didn't really think anything. It was just like, well, that kind of stuff. People have been selling Crass merchandise for like years, and I've not bothered about it, so why should I bother about it now, you know? And I didn't. But it's only recently that since I've had numerous people coming to me and saying loads of Crass stuff is being sold on the internet, and there's a bloody clock with a Crass symbol on it, that or Eve Libertine with the flag from the Feeding 5000 thing. Buy a clock, you can buy, you know, obviously t-shirts. little coasters, tea towels and shit like this, and all of that money is going somewhere, and I don't know where the fucking hell it's going, so I just want to try and stop that.
It seemed very ironic that, you know, probably one of the wealthiest non-landed gentry, or well, certainly he must be one of the wealthiest people in this country, was wearing a Crass t-shirt. And then I just forgot about it. I mean, I did sort of think of following it up by maybe doing a t-shirt with him on it, wearing a Crass t-shirt. And I just thought it'd be ironic to produce a t-shirt of him wearing a Crass t-shirt with something like, you know, David supports Crass. And see, you know, how long it would be before their lawyers tried it on with us.
At the moment we're being ripped off, and we're not getting paid for it. Well, what we could do is still get ripped off but be paid for it. You know, this is the year 2006 now. It's not 1981 or whatever. The world has changed, and it's.
And what do you mean by that?
That it's not. In the late 70s and the early 80s, it was possible to live on a dole, and it was possible to not have a job, or you could live without money. Now you can't. It's really fucking difficult. You've got to have money. You've got to. Not you've got to have money. I sound like a fucking capitalist, you know, just on about money all the time. And it's not that. It's just the world is different now, and you have to move with it. And I just am so frustrated with the thought that some fucking big company, you know, don't even know who Crass were, but it's the product sells well, so they're fucking selling it and getting the money for it, and we're not getting nothing. Fuck it. Bollocks, that's got to stop. That's just crap.
That's it. I'll be the old rehearsal room. And there's an old drum skin with a Crass symbol on it. The only bit remaining. It's been lots of things since then. It used to be completely lined with carpet, and then we had carpet and strips right across the ceiling so that it, you know, soundproofed it a bit, because it was pretty bloody noisy in there, as you can imagine, with 5 of us playing. But, yeah. I think it might be. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I told you we lost all the banners, didn't I? In Amsterdam. But one remained, which has to be the right one, really, doesn't it? Yeah, there you go. I should be doing "There is no force but yourself," all right? Yeah. Yeah. The one remainder. Now, an old Remo head. Whoa!
Who invented the cross symbol?
There's a guy called Dave King, who was an art student, friend, who lived here. It was a frontispiece for the book I was writing, because the book was about the state, the church, and the family, and I wanted something which, you know, was a sort of like the sort of fascism of that control, and that was the symbol, which I think was a very brilliant piece of design. Serpent eating its own tail, basically, destroying itself.
And how exactly was Crass socially and politically active? How direct?
Well, obviously, as an information service, we were very powerful. I mean, it was pre-internet, pre-computers, really. You know, so we didn't have that sort of outlet. But I mean, the network we had was absolutely massive. Our own involvements were, well, varied from sort of soft edge stuff like graffiti campaigns, which were very, very carefully done, militaristically done, graffitiing the central part of the underground network in London. We'd start doing statements, you know, neatly. We never sprayed on property, we sprayed on posters. So say there was a war poster, you know, like a film poster for a war movie. Then we'd have Fight War Not Wars on it, you know, very neatly. And we had this policy of being very neat so that it was sort of couldn't really be complained about as vandalism. Not because I object to vandalism necessarily, but because it seemed a way in which we might be able to attract the interest of people who otherwise could dismiss it as vandalism. So it varied from that to sort of more, you know, direct actions of sort of super gluing or paint bombing, that sort of stuff. I mean, we never got into any sort of arson. Stop the City events of the early 80s, I suppose, were the most extreme manifestation of that, in the sense that they were a sort of mixture of part festival, part riot. Well, the idea was to close down the city, and I can't remember, there's 2 days in the year when certain figures are shifted in the city from one institution to another. It's when they, you know, decide on the currency, all that sort of shit. Anyway, basically speaking, if you put the city out of operation on those days, then, you know, you're really fucking up their entire modus operandi, like the banks and shipping agencies and that sort of stuff. You know, from sort of smoke bombs in the underground, which completely has to stop the undergrounds, to, you know, banks were having their windows smashed in, streets were blocked, phones were blocked. I mean, the place became inoperable for a day. I believe, you know, that it set a pattern. I mean, certainly Reclaim the Streets came out of the Stop the City movement, and, you know, inevitably I think that, and the Stop the City thing actually did spread right across the globe. I mean, it started happening